Well, hello there all you amazing people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays, a channel where I get to talk about nature while playing games. Now, we are back in Subnautica below zero, as you can see, and today it is a bit of a different episode. We are looking at some of the creatures and their ecology, rather than following the main story, which we have been doing thus far. Now, of course, we're going to be looking at a few creatures today. First one is right over here, the eye jelly. So called because, well, it is a jellyfish that looks like it has a big eye at the top there. Now, these things, being typical jellyfish, they will have their stinging cells. So those tentacles over there are, of course, for catching food. So they'll be catching whatever comes floating past, whether it be small plant matter, or perhaps a little fishy coming past here, or perhaps a bigger creature like us swimming closer to it. It most likely would go for us as well. And if something dead floats past as well, well, food is food, so they will go for that as well. Not sure why it has this hypnotic pattern of lights flowing around over there. Maybe this is a form of communication with other of the eye jellies in the area, or maybe it is trying to attract us. You can see the other ones don't seem to be doing the flashy light bits. Oh, maybe they do. Yeah, there we go. They're going a little bit crazier now. Really stands out quite a bit. These little bladderfish and other fishies swimming around, if they touch those tentacles, they are most likely doomed. So if you look at the PDA entry of these little creatures, it says that it's got quite a high or relatively high threat level, and that's because they will have, and you can see here, bioluminescent nodes. So little flashy lights all over the place here. That is, of course, to attract things to it, so to attract prey animals to it. Once they then get close to them, they have, as it says in the PDA here, cnidocytes. There we go, specialized cells called cnidocytes. Those are characteristic of all jellyfish, blue bottles, sea anemones, everything in the cnidaria group. So jellyfish and their relatives. And when you touch those cnidocytes, they are special cells called nematocysts, which will basically fire harpoons into your body, which, or tiny little harpoons of course, which will inject venom into you. Now, I don't actually know how bad these little guys are, so let's, for science, go and check it. This is similar to the Schmidt pain index. The Schmidt is a guy that decided to, okay, yeah, that is a little bit of a shock, but not completely incapacitated. You can see we took very little damage there. But Schmidt is the guy that decided, you know what, it's going to be fun. Let's rate all the venomous stinging creatures, the pain of their stings, according to how I feel after getting stung by them. So let's see here, let's go into another one. It shocks us, but it's clearly designed to neutralize smaller prey animals. Okay, that's enough for now. It's hurty, but it's not killy. Okay. For science. We got ourselves shocked a little bit. So, yeah, I would rate them as perhaps less of a threat, perhaps a little bit just into the red. It is stinging, but it's not killing me in the process. So, yeah. Now, interestingly enough, the PDA does say that these are its eyes. Jellyfish on Earth do not have eyes. So this is something that is quite unique to Planet 4546b's eye jellies. Okay. So the thing is that this eye can only look up. So it can only look around for things coming at it from above. It can't look for prey animals. It can't look for anything swimming up to it from the side. It can only track movements up above it. So I guess predators, they will most likely be something specializing in taking out eye jellies, because where you've got something, even something venomous like the eye jellies, there will be something that will take them out. So whether it be something like the chelicerates, or whether it be something like a large seal-like creature, there will be something taking them out. Now, these eye jellies are all adults. They're all in the final stage of their lives. So what happens, the jellyfish, they've got this weird life cycle where these little guys will be spawning. They'll be creating little babies. Those little babies will end up most likely settling up on the seafloor somewhere. They look like tiny little sea anemones with little tentacles. They form, they break off little individuals. These little small individuals basically look like a whole stack of sea anemones. These little tiny anemones then basically break off and form these guys over here, the actual eye jellies. So these are the adults. The juveniles would probably be in deeper water somewhere, wherever they go to actually spawn. you'd find these little tiny little babies. Now, from that to something that is a little less dangerous, the boomerang fish up ahead here. Now, we of course saw the boomerang in the original Subnautica as well. They're relatively fast and quite agile as well. Oh, there we go. We've actually got an Arctic ray chasing it down as well. So the little boomerang there, they don't have, those are not siphons sticking out above and below it. Instead, those are just parts of its fins. The bioluminescence, we can see those little light blue tips there. That appears to come from the food that they've eaten. On Earth, we also do have a few things that take that whole thing of you are what you eat quite seriously. Ooh, that little guy got shocked. Got a shock of its life. It did manage to get away, though. Interesting. So yeah, these eye jellies definitely going for fish, but still not even able to stun a boomerang fish with one shock, which is very, very interesting. The boomerangs there, quite fast, quite agile with those two fins. Interestingly enough, it says that it's cartilaginous extension of its skeleton. So this is not a bony part of its skeleton, this is just cartilage. Quite flexible, but not as strong, I would guess. And it's interesting that it says it's harder to grow back. Now that would suggest that these guys, the boomerangs, are able to detach fins or lose some of those fins, one of those fins, and actually regenerate it. So through the process of regeneration. Whether they are able to willingly lose their fin is a different story. Things like starfish, for example, will lose a limb through the process called autotomy, which is when they just tear off one of their limbs, or the limb breaks along a weak point, similar to how a lizard will detach its tail. We can actually see better without the light here. So perhaps there are some weak points there along the cartilaginous skeleton, and if a predator grabs it by the fin, it actually breaks off, and the fin then may be able to regenerate, which is a very interesting adaptation. I did not expect any fish over here to actually have the ability to regenerate lost fins. Now the predator we have swimming around here, of course, the Arctic ray. Very different from the rays we have seen in the first Subnautica game, in the tropical areas of this planet. Look at the rays of light coming through the water here. This is just, amazing. Such attention to detail. Oh, hello, sorry, little jelly. Yeah, go away. Get out of my way. But let's look at this Arctic ray. Now you can see the mouth there. Kind of at the front part there, looks like it's giving a very nice grimace there, a nice little smile with its pointy teeth. And then it has oh, something died. I don't know. Oh, I think I hit a baby jelly. Okay. Oh, I hit an Arctic ray. Oops, sorry little one. Yeah, there are lots of them. Maybe I should actually get out and swim with them. But before we do, interesting that it's grouped into the herbivore section, because this is definitely a predator. Very, very sharp, pointy teeth, which indicates a predatory nature. They are very fast-moving, well-adapted to low-temperature environments. Most likely a little bit warm-blooded, actually. So endothermic, capable of maintaining their own body temperature. Now, despite the fact that fish are generally cold-blooded, a lot of fish that live in cold water, especially large fish like tuna and great white sharks, they are capable of maintaining their body temperature. Interesting that this is a herbivore though, since we have seen what appears to be them chasing down fish. But apparently these little guys are actually herbivores. I don't know, I don't think they are. Sharp pointy teeth, like we can see over there, indicates that this is most likely something that will at least catch small creatures like little fish, or some of these small fish swimming around in the shoals over here. The shoals of fish, of course, trying to stay alive by having safety in numbers, less of a chance that you are going to be the unfortunate soul that gets eaten by a predator if you are in a group rather than just one little individual swimming around. Interesting that the PDA does say that they are, like all rays, they are herbivores. Rays generally are actually carnivores. A lot of them will be specializing in eating things that are on the bottom. So most rays, at least on Earth, will be swimming along the ocean bottom over here, and they will actually be digging out clams and stuff like that, little things hiding around in the ocean floor here. They will be scrunching around in the sand here. They are bottom feeders, they are benthic creatures, feeding on the things that are hiding around in the sand here and crushing their shells with their very strong teeth. But it seems on planet 4546b, the rays are mostly herbivores. Now, in terms of eyesight, there is an eye over there, right over there, okay? It also has a whole bunch of little pinkish eye spots all along there on little stalks, most likely to at least pick up some movement of predators or prey in the general area. So the big eye most likely is its main way of detecting food and predators, but then those little eye stalks that it also has most likely helps it to detect slight movements. It's not the main way of detecting whatever is present in the area. But yeah, there are some little creatures that are of course along here in the Arctic area, and all these individuals will be adapted, will be adapted to the cold water that they are exposed to in this part of the world. Most likely semi-endothermic, capable of maintaining their body temperature. A lot of them will most likely have quite a bit of blubber or fat in their bodies, which will of course enable them to also maintain their body temperature a little bit more easily. Oh, look at all these little featherfish swimming around. As mentioned in one of the previous episodes, the featherfish at the surface here are bluish purplish in color, but the deep versions are red, because in deeper water the red color is actually a good form of camouflage, because there's no red light reaching them down. From about 40-60-ish meters, there's no red light penetrating the water anymore, which means that if you are red and you are 60 meters underwater, you are invisible to creatures that are trying to look for you, unless they are capable of generating their own red light, which some creatures that are in the deep waters are able to do. Now, right outside our base here, we do have our grow beds as well, and I think it's time for us to go plant a few extra things in there. We've got gel sacks and we've got the kelp growing there, but I think it is time for us to also grow a few of the other things that we have encountered along the way. Maybe some ribbon plants, some cotton anemones, and of course, the spiral plants. I think this bed over here, I'm going to dedicate to spiral plants. They're going to just happily start growing here now. We've gotten cotton anemones over here now as well. Maybe we can actually get seeds. Yeah, we can get seeds from it. Wonderful. That means we can plant more. Can we plant? No, we can't plant the flowering spore. Okay, so at least we know that now. And then over here, we're going to just plant some ribbon plants for battery production. And we got seeds from those as well. Okay, marvelous. So we've got a bit of a production going on here as well. We've got lots of creepvine here, some of these kelp. We of course will be able to harvest the creepvine seed clusters if needed. We can then of course just use that in all kinds of stuff. So the creepvine here, they typical, well, I say algae, but they not really algae. Typical kelp species, they will have haptra or root-like structures at the base, long stipes or stems, and then their fronds or the leaves up at the top here. This species, the creepvine, looks very, very similar to the Macrocystis genus we have on Earth, which are some of the tallest growing species of kelp, growing up to about 60 meters in height, which is amazing, about 200 feet in length. That's a 15-story building. That is shocking how big that is.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Thank you. Now, while we are just sitting in our observatory looking at the Cryptosuchus up there, let's just quickly have a look again at the Frozen Leviathan. Okay, so last time I said that I don't think this thing survived on land. This is massive in size. Now, although it doesn't say it here in the PDA, the estimates of the body size of this creature is about 70 meters in length from the tip of the snout to the base of the tail. With the tail, however, it's up to 150 meters in length. Now, that is longer than the pyramids of Giza, so it's a massive creature. On Earth, the longest creatures were only about 40 meters, and I say only with a pinch of salt here, were only about 40 meters in length, which is about a quarter of the size of this gigantic creature. Now, larger animals have more difficulty trying to remain standing under the pressure of the atmosphere. And if they were to be sprawling and actually crawling along the ground, as this thing does appear to be able to do, the atmospheric pressure would most likely cause its lungs to be under extreme strain. and most likely it would suffocate to death if it remained on land for long periods of time. Maybe it did come onto land occasionally, perhaps to give birth. Maybe the young were actually more terrestrial, and then as they got larger they moved into the ocean. A lot of creatures, lots of monitors for example, the young ones are more arboreal, more tree living, and then the adults become more terrestrial or ground living, simply because young ones are perfectly suited for life in the trees, adults not so much. So maybe this Frozen Leviathan, the juveniles were more terrestrial, and then as they got larger and heavier and less able to withstand the pressure of the atmosphere on land, they started shifting more towards the ocean. But perhaps occasionally they would need to come onto land for short periods of time. Because this thing, it does say, was walking around. So the PDA does seem to think that this thing was walking around on land when it fell through the ice. So it was doing something up on the ice, maybe finding a geyser, maybe it wanted to lay eggs, and the geyser would incubate the eggs for an extended period of time. Similar to how the ghost leviathans had their eggs at the cove tree in the original Subnautica. So maybe these ones also have a special breeding site that they needed to visit and lay their eggs. But the claws here, although well suited for life on land, you do see some webbing behind it as well, in the hind feet at least, and perhaps a little bit here in the front feet as well, similar to crocodiles, which are of course aquatic creatures or water-dwelling creatures. And this may also just be to grip onto the ice underwater and to ambush passing creatures, passing things like glow whales, for example. If the glow whales were alive at the time when these things were around, maybe they were specializing in ambushing glow whales. So quite a lot of fun to speculate about this massive creature, but as I say, most likely wouldn't have been able to spend its entire life up on land. Would most likely be mostly aquatic, perhaps going onto land occasionally for whatever nefarious purpose. Ah, Cryptosuchus. I love this little observatory, just chilling, watching the Cryptosuchus swimming above us here. There was another one at the back there. Shoals of fish. We've got the plumes over here, the hot water bubbling up there. It does seem that the current is also moving past us in that direction, so a lot of filter feeders could also establish all along where we currently are and just filter out food particles that are floating around in the water. There's a nice, strong water current over here. But I think that is probably a good spot to end today's episode. So thank you very much everyone for joining me on today's little different episode. Didn't really go with the story. We looked more at the creatures themselves. If you enjoyed it, do give it a like, of course, and let me know that you like this way of looking at things as well. And perhaps Friday's video can also be another one of this type of exploratory videos. Of course, I'll be back on Friday with another Subnautica Below Zero episode, and the same then next week as well. So until next time, everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Bye.